All right. Again, thanks again for joining us today. My name is Michael Clark, Immediate Past President at the CCA. I'm joined by Maria Sarli and Ellen Kleinstuber, CCA's current President and President-elect. In this last segment of our Emerging Leaders interview series, I want to focus a little bit more on the topic of leadership. It's one of the topics that I end up asking everyone about that I've interviewed so far. Maria, I'll start with you. In thinking about people that you consider to be successful leaders, what traits do they have and how do they demonstrate their leadership?
Okay. Well, I think everybody has probably been exposed to both good leaders and bad leaders. And sometimes I think the bad leaders are the ones that are easier to spot. They're the ones who want to make sure that you know that they're the leader. You know, perhaps they give lip service to listening to other people's opinions, but they almost never actually change their mind based on the input that they get. When it comes to executing, they sometimes fall into one of two camps. They either micromanage and don't give the people who are charged with executing a strategy, you know, enough authority to execute it as they see fit, or they might be very hands off and then blame you know, everyone else when something goes wrong. I think most of us have worked with a leader that fits into that category. To me, a good leader is one that's maybe a little harder to spot, is a lot more collaborative, listens to other people's opinions, and does in fact change their mind about things based on other people's input at times. And then gives people who have to execute a strategy the leash to do so. And probably most important, that leader has to look at, you know, setbacks as being, you know, team setbacks. And of course, you know, the buck stops with the team leader, but look at successes as being the team successes and not the success of, you know, one or two people.
Ellen?
Yeah, I think, Maria, the people that you describe as bad leaders, I think my word for them is bosses as opposed to leaders. For me, you know, showing leadership, I think the first step is to actually care, both personally and professionally, about the people on the team and let that show. I think that goes a long way towards building credibility and towards inspiring people that they want to care in return. I think Maria touched on a really important one, that leaders look at their success as being defined by the success of the people around them and the teams that they're part of. They aren't threatened by other strong, talented team members, but they're drawn to them and they're inspired by them. And you know, yeah, you know, the buck stops with you if you're the one at the top, but you know, owning that the success really is a team effort is important. I think good leaders are transparent. That doesn't mean that they have loose lips and they're going to go share trade secrets and they're going to tell everyone in the firm everything that's going on. It means that they have this ability to engender trust, and that they're going to communicate people with the people that they are leading and on their teams honestly, candidly, clearly, and that people know that when they hear something coming from that leader, it is something that they can believe in and that it's coming from a place that is very genuine. I think leaders are authentic. You know, it's just too much work to try and keep up some sort of facade of who you think other people want you to be. True leaders, I think, are comfortable being who they are and letting the people around them see who they are. And this all builds back into the caring and the transparency. Maria, I think, hit on an important one. They own their mistakes and they learn from them, but they also help other people learn from them as well. They're not, when something goes wrong, they're not looking to point fingers at other people. They own, you know, what their role in it was. And the really strong ones, I had a chance to talk with one of our members, someone who was at the annual meeting yesterday. And this was something he pointed out. I thought it was really spot on, that when you make a mistake, tell other people about the mistake and tell them what you did wrong and what you've learned from it, and let them learn from that as well. I think just two other things. They have a lot of emotional intelligence, right? So they're able to understand how they feel about a situation without necessarily having those feelings dictate how they're going to react to the situation. And I think having that level of control over your emotions is really important. It helps you maintain your composure when things stress you out or they don't go the way you expect them to. Because if you're someone who is going to is able to remain kind of calm and in control when things don't go right, that's going to resonate and it's going to pass along to the people who you're leading. They will feel a sense of calm as well. It will help them to access whatever is concerning them or causing them stress. And this one I'm gonna steal from my, I'm gonna call it my boss, my manager, our chief operating officer. One of the things that leaders do is, and I think one thing that is a misconception about leaders is that we're the ones that have all the answers, that we have all the ideas, and you can just look to us and we're gonna do it all. Leaders plant seeds, right? We other people on our team have great ideas, and they just need someone who can cultivate that in them, who can give them the freedom to share those ideas. And maybe they don't always know what to do with them, but the leaders then they plant the seeds and they create the environment for those seeds to grow. And then they cultivate them and they help people to be creative and share their ideas for the betterment of the whole team.
No, those are excellent. I appreciate both of you sharing your thoughts on that. Ellen, as you think about your role as a leader within your company and within the profession, and your leadership style, what adjustments have you had to make to be a successful leader?
Well, one thing that's been very important, and it's been a challenge for me at times, is to let things go. You can't keep taking on more responsibilities, more leadership roles, if you're holding on to everything that you already have. You have to find things that you can let go of, and you have to trust other people to take them. There's an old saying that says, if you can't be replaced, you can't be promoted. Well, if you want to be promoted, if you want to advance, if you want to take on more things, you have to be replaceable on some of the things that you were doing, or else you're just going to burn out, trying to do too much. For me, that's meant building a team of people that I trust that are going to lead the same way that I would, and then learning to let go of the things that don't absolutely require my involvement every step of the way. An important thing for me to remember is that I have to set expectations for my team about when I want to be updated, what I want to be updated about, whether it's sort of a set time or interval, or when we hit some key milestone, or when you hit a roadblock. But then you have to trust the people that you've built as part of your team to help you to lead, and give them opportunities to take on new things and grow. And for another thing for me has been just making sure that I take time to stop and think about what things look like if I'm in the other person's shoes. Being able to see my actions through the eyes of the people who I'm leading. I might think that I'm doing something that's perfectly obvious, but if I don't think how someone who has different experiences than I do might see a decision that I make, or a new policy, or a staffing change that we make, then I'm falling short of that standard of care that I talked about earlier, that I think is really important for being an effective leader.
I think it goes back to getting feedback, right? Making sure, whether it's formal feedback or informal feedback,
Mm-hmm.
but looking for those, I think can get you to what you're talking about, which I think is invaluable. Maria, same question to you. What adjustments have you had to make along the way to become a successful leader?
The biggest one is probably one that Ellen already talked about. I definitely have the micromanaging gene. I mean, my father always used to tell me, if you want something done right, do it yourself. And I've had a real struggle to stop doing that, and to, give people the trust that they deserve, and not look over their shoulder all the time. But I've gotten much better at it, and it's absolutely essential to be able to do that. Because, as Ellen said, you can't take on more responsibility if you're still doing every little thing. The other thing I've had to learn to do is to speak up more. I have always had a tendency not to speak up and say something if I thought it was kind of obvious and everyone else was already thinking it, or if I thought someone else was already going to say it. I only wanted to speak up and say something that no one else was going to say. And the problem with that is you appear disengaged and you appear unthoughtful to the folks that you're dealing with. So that's another thing that I've had to learn to do.
Excellent. Well, Ellen and Maria, I appreciate you joining me today, and everyone else that was on this interview series this morning. As a reminder, we'll have these segments posted on the CCA's website here in the coming weeks, so that you can re-listen to them or forward them to a colleague or a friend that you might think would find the information valuable. Again, Ellen and Maria, thank you for joining us. Thanks for your time and your leadership roles over these coming years for the CCA and for the profession as a whole. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap. And again, thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.